This is Supply House Times editor Mike Miazga here at NetworkASA 2012 in Orlando, joined right now by Danze CEO Michael Werner. It's nice to see you. A couple minutes ago you gave a state of the kitchen and bath industry talk here to the folks at the ASA convention. Technology obviously is going to play a huge role going forward. Can you just kind of summarize what you went over here, during your talk?
Sure. Our basic message is that this is going to be a very exciting time for the kitchen and bath industry. After 5 years of a housing depression, we now are in a turnaround mode. And housing starts, we're up 20% year to date. And we think over the next several years, the industry is going to come back. But it's going to come back differently than it was in the past. And we think the key is for people to really understand how the industry has changed and to prepare for those changes. And one of the biggest changes is the internet and the impact that technology is going to have both on showrooms and also on how we operate. In terms of technology, we see showrooms being completely different in the future. We see showrooms being infinite in their offering because you're going to be able to use technology to offer consumers an opportunity to shop long before they ever walk in the door. And what's interesting is that today, about 80% of homeowners or consumers research online, yet only about 5% of them actually buy products online. In fact, the reality is that most people research online and then they go into a showroom. A big reason for that is that we're all human. We like to have eye-to-eye contact. You like to touch things and see things in person. So the key is, as a showroom owner or as a plumbing wholesaler, how do you leverage the internet? How do you take advantage of that? And our view is if you focus both on taking existing and newly developing technologies to improve your showroom, so you start using things like virtual reality and haptic technology and all sorts of interesting 3D design tools to make your showroom much more engaging and much more consumer friendly, almost like how Apple stores have revolutionized the retail world. And then you combine that with an internet presence. And you want to have the internet presence where people first start their shopping process. So there's a concept called the zero moment of truth. It was actually created by Google. In the old advertising days, they used to talk about the moment of truth. You'd walk into a grocery store and you'd see the toothpaste, and that would be the moment of truth. Well, now it backs up to when you shop online. You're not necessarily shopping to buy something online, you're shopping for information. So if showrooms and designers can connect, and one of the things that Danze is working on is what we call our vision of connectivity, trying to literally connect the industry, to connect designers with showrooms, with plumbing wholesalers, and then eventually with plumbers and builders and others. We think that there's a tremendous opportunity to leverage the power of the internet to be able to touch consumers early in their shopping process, to give them better information, to bring designers leads, to bring designers to showrooms, and ultimately to help the wholesaler and our whole industry sell more and prosper much more.
There's a lot in the wholesaling industry. When you bring up the internet, sometimes people say it could have a negative impact. What you presented here today seems like the internet can work in the future here.
We definitely think it can work, but that's not to minimize the impact of the internet on the negative side. Our basic view is that we have to be able to take weaknesses, turn them upside down, and make them strengths. So in our own company, we were challenged several years ago because of pricing pressure brought on showrooms by the internet. And we said, how do we look at that and how do we take that which was a weakness and turn it into a strength? And that's really what led to some of our work, because as we talked to showrooms, they all said, we think that 60-70% of faucets are sold online. In fact, it's only about 6%. But what the impact has been is it's brought down pricing. It's created negative pricing pressure. So we said, how do you turn that around and how do you engage consumers in a way that's very beneficial? It's also interesting, though, that the real value of a showroom is when they can get a consumer to think about doing an even bigger project. And when you look at kind of a couple truths out there, we actually call them the 3 truths. The first truth is that the internet's great at getting eyeballs, but it's not very good at closing sales. In fact, while more than 80% of the people shop online to look for things, or really research online, less than 2% actually end up buying online. Truth number 2 is that showrooms are great at closing sales. A typical showroom can close 50 to 70% of the people who walk in the door, but the typical showroom has less than 1 visitor per day. So how do you bring those two things together? How do you get people to realize that you can research online and then come by in a physical showroom? And that's part of how we see showrooms actually working with some e-tailers to try to drive good business for all of them. And the third truth is the more complicated the project, the more value that a showroom and a designer brings. So we're trying to bring all those together, and we call it our portal to prosperity. We've got about 15 different initiatives that we're working on that we want to roll out to the industry, to our preferred showroom partners and our plumbing wholesalers that we work most closely with to help them drive their business.
Sounds like some exciting times in the future. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
For more on Network ASA 2012, read the November issue of Supply House Times.